Hello, everyone. I'm JB. I'm here with Terry Rich. Going to share with us some great stories from the past. But just before we get going, Foxy Network is about making you the face of the network. We produce professional interview videos that you can share with your following on social media. And we also have payment options for additional promo through our platform and through Roku ads. Build your brand with our brand, Fox D Network. All right. So today we have Terry Rich, author of 2 books, CEO, entrepreneur, and he's been in this game since the beginning. You started with, if I remember correctly, HBO.
Cable television, just starting cable, and
Cable.
before cable was cool. We did it with Ted Turner, and we
Yeah,
helped start MTV and CNN and all those kinds of shows as cable operators.
wild. And you were just telling me that you would drop in, so you would cut out the feed and just drop HBO into people's TVs, and then you'd come at the end. It's like, hey, you like that? Tell me a little bit more about how you set that up and how it revolutionized the industry a little bit.
Well, this is the backstory. I came out of college, farm kid, in Iowa. Started with this cable company while all my friends went to broadcast, and I decided, because I was doing some on camera, that I had a 5 o'clock shadow. I didn't have a 5 o'clock shadow, so I wrote Schick and said, "Hey, hire me. I want to go to New York and do a TV commercial." 2 weeks to the day, I got the letter back. Said, "Dear Mr. Rich, we're glad you enjoyed your Track 2 razor, but we didn't make it. Gillette made." I wrote the wrong company. But during those 2 weeks, I got so excited about being an on-camera TV that I realized I failed there. But you try something, you may be able to make it. Well, about 10 years later, when I was working for this cable TV company, I had the opportunity to help promote my local hometown called Cooper, Iowa. And Cooper wanted to have a centennial. They didn't know how many people or how many years they were old, but they decided to have a centennial so at least they could have a beer party. And they asked me
Yeah.
to help promote it because I was from Cooper. So, make a long story short, I wrote up a press release, sent it to 44 places, and only one responded. And that one response was from United Press International. And it made it to the desk of the talent coordinator for the Johnny Carson show. And they asked me to help them if we could maybe adopt Johnny as that 51st citizen. And they talked about uplinking the entire show from Cooper, Iowa. Well, I didn't realize you could do that from Iowa, have a satellite TV uplink. So, long story short, the old when they looked at that, they decided they couldn't get it done for that weekend or that week. So they decided to take us out, and we got to be on Johnny Carson for 2 commercial breaks before Tom Jones, 20 million homes. I mean, what a way to start your career. But I started
Do you
thinking a
remember
year.
what year that was?
It was
Like what?
1981. Still on YouTube. You can watch it. I'm wearing a
1980.
mustache. It's kind of embarrassing because I say some things I probably shouldn't have said on national television, but we had fun.
Yeah. Sorry,
So,
it's just the context of Johnny Carson going back that far and that early in TV and satellite uplinks being a new thing when now it's just such common practice. Like
it
I don't
was.
even think about all the satellites
Well, and
right above
once
us.
they said we could do it via satellite, I started thinking, well, back at my cable company, why couldn't we do this for these HBO free previews I was doing? I was going from town to town, the old pitchman from town to town saying, watch HBO, and then in between the movies, say, calling out or another. What if we did this by satellite? That's where we got the idea, was from the Johnny Carson show. Even though I failed from 43 of the press releases I sent out, only one press release got this call from Johnny Carson. But so I called my buddy at HBO. They said, nah, but you're a good client. I'll call this person, that person. Well, they got to Bob Zitter, the head of HBO engineering, and he said, sure, when do you want it? And they drove a truck out with this great big dish on the back to go up 23,500 miles. And that weekend, our free HBO preview sold over $15 million in movies for our cable company. And that really helped my career to take off.
Oh,
And,
for
and
sure.
it's been a great career since.
That's probably the biggest push they had in their existence for one weekend.
Well, we did it then, and then we started doing it for HBO or all these other cable companies as I started my own company.
Yeah.
That was kind of the brand, and ultimately led to doing some national ones with both HBO and Stars. We were kind of the hucksters for pay television in the day, and it was really fun.
See, I remember in the 90s when I was a kid at home, we used to look forward so much to those free HBO nights. All of a sudden, oh, HBO is not blurred out. Encore's not blurred out. We have, oh, it's a free weekend. And that all traces back to you. Like some of the best movie memories with my family from my childhood were because of your direct drop-ins and your campaigns that you started. It's wild.
Well,
Meeting you now.
I'll often go to friends, and in the background you'll see the kids watching a movie, and all of a sudden I'll hear my voice and think, well, what is that all about? And I find out that they had recorded it, and they were watching the free HBO preview.
That's pretty good. And then you ran a zoo for a while?
In addition to all of that, then when I was 40, the cable company sold to a big one. Someone came in, they took a run at our stock, and they were going to do a hostile takeover. Well, we luckily had the opportunity to cash that out, and it was a great deal. Started my own company, continued to do free HBO previews. And at 50, you know what happens? Midlife crisis. Yeah. I decided I wanted to try something, get off the road. I was making all this money. It was good. Things are going on. We did a show called Soccer Slam, which I want to tell you about in just a second. But anyway, I decided to get off the road at 50, and I told a few people, and an ex-governor called and said, hey, look, they're going to close down the zoo. The city's running it. It's losing $600,000 a year. Would you be interested in coming to work for us as a nonprofit and take over the zoo? Well, I guess I grew up on a farm. I don't think cows are that much different from giraffes. And so I got to turn around run a zoo for 6-7 years, and just had the time of life of making more money, turning it around, and then in addition to that, becoming the second largest cultural attraction in our state. And it was pretty easy, pretty basic blocking and tackling from a marketing standpoint. And then we did a couple of fun projects, which made a lot of money. One was Zoo Brew. We figured we had all the kids coming to the zoo already, so you can't really get that many more. But how about young adults? And what do they like? Booze, right? So we did a Zoo Brew, and they sold $250,000 just in beer last year at this Zoo Brew and at the zoo, and it just went really well. The other thing that we did was tried to find an exhibit. Instead of spending $2 or $3 million to have a new lion, what could we build that would be easy? And so we brought in an exhibit called Scoop on Poop. And it was showing excrement of all exotic animals. Kids giggled. They'd come in, just be hilarious. They'd go around, look at all these different kinds of poops and say, oh, that's a giraffe and that's a hippopotamus. But then we figured out there are a lot of deer in our state, white-tailed deer, and that they're prey, of course, that people like to eat, and lions are predators. And even though they hadn't met each other, we went to the tiger cage, and we have lots of this for free. We had all this tiger poop. So we'd scoop it up and put it in gallon buckets, and we sold it for $20 a bucket and made $20,000 that summer. So creatively, we turned it around, got 12 or 15 million in endowment, and it's going to be around forever at the Blank Park Zoo.
That's beautiful. Any cool perks from being CEO of Zoo for so long? Like, did you have a favorite animal? Any enclosures you'd like to visit?
Anytime I go, I love giraffes. They're still my favorite. They're big, they're massive. They kick the daylights out. That's how they kill someone, sometimes with their head, but most of the time with a big old kick. There's just something about a giraffe that's majestic. So I got the opportunity to go to Africa on one of the zoo visits. We took donors and see all of the different, do 4 or 5 different areas for safaris. And that was pretty cool. You kind of see the Southern Lights for the first time, when you're down on the south side of the hemisphere.
That's amazing. And I imagine you got to feed the giraffes as often as you'd like, because they'll eat from your hand, if I remember.
That was another thing we did, just make some money if you can. If you feed them lettuce, you can charge $5 for kids to get a picture with his tongue that's about 18 inches long to reach out and grab that piece of lettuce. And so each day, even through now, and many zoos do this, they feed lettuce to the giraffes. But you try to keep them in a large natural habitat so that they do. But once they become domesticated, it's pretty tough to get them back in the wild. So that's why you try not to bring wild animals back over from Africa. You try to repopulate, especially the exotic animals, to make sure they're around for years and years to come.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And that's amazing things you've done for your state. But what is the Soccer Slam? So I've read some of both of your books, and I've listened to some interviews. I have not heard anything about Soccer Slam yet.
Well, I wanted to forget it for a while. Here's the deal. So we're doing the free HBO previews. Man, it was great money. Go somewhere for a weekend. We'd go to Warner Brothers or down to Florida, Disney World, wherever, and do free preview. Come home, make great money, but no one really knew what we did. Nor did I have. It was kind of work for hire. It's kind of like if you're a comedian, you'll stand on stage, you do your bit, you walk away, you get a check, but you really don't own anything until you do your CD so I said, well, could we do a TV show that would be around and we could have on the shelf and resell and resell. And I looked around, and on cable television at the time in the late 90s, the number one show was WWE, or we called it WWF back there. It went from E to F.
I remember WWE.
And so it's WWE, and I'm thinking, well, wrestling, you're pretty good in high school, pretty good in college, but what the heck do you do when you're out of college? And that's, kind of do WWE. There's no pro wrestling at that point, really. I said, what other sports like that? And in the day, soccer really hadn't caught on in America. And so I started thinking, gosh, I could get professional soccer players. I rented an ice rink. I paid for the turf to put down on top of the ice. And we got the great big goals inside. And we hired these guys to do full contact indoor soccer. And we had 3 periods. The last 2 minutes, we threw in a second ball, which was worth 3 times the points. And then we had the coach messing around with someone else. We actually had, you've heard of a yellow card and a brown card in soccer. We had a brown card because some guy farted during part of the show. So it was all just craziness, full contact. Hired a couple of stunt guys that came from here that did Hollywood movies, and they did all the fights. So they were on all the different teams. Once you really watch it and study it, they would go out and something would happen. Then one would jump up and just knock the daylights out of the other one as stuntman. And so we had it, and we got it on Fox Sports World, 4 shows. And then I recut it a couple of years later and put it, we hired a comedian and a sportscaster that spoke Spanish, and we did it for Galavision for a couple episodes. But doing the HBO free previews was just as profitable, if not the risk. I mean, we had professional soccer players that the workers' comp to do these shows was astronomical. So we just kind of let it lie. And then about 2 years later, my kids go to Best Buy and they see this show, this Sega game called Soccer Slam. We looked at it, wait a minute. It's spelled differently because we spelled ours Soccer and theirs was Soccer. But the uniforms looked the same. The announcers sounded the same. And so we had a good conversation with Sega, and they denied that anybody had copied it. But long story short, they now own the rights to the Soccer Slam game, and we still own the rights to the TV game. So then it just died for 20 years until last December. I get a call from this dude from theathletic.com. It's a national sports wire. This guy was the lead soccer reporter, and he said, hey, I just happened to catch on YouTube or somewhere this Soccer Slam game. And my boss said they saw it. We were just giggling about what this thing was. Can we do an interview? We'd like to do a feature story on it. Well, okay. So they did the feature story, and lo and behold, we started getting calls to do a documentary on it. So we've produced in this last 4 months, there's a Soccer Slam, how it was made show that is being shot, edited, and will probably be on sometime next summer on one of the streaming services that will talk about all the crazy things that happen with Soccer Slam. Now, the players for me isn't so much Soccer Slam as the documentary, although it's going to be pretty cool, I think. It's that The Rock.
I'm going to check it.
The Rock just paid $15 million for XFL in bankruptcy. That's an extreme sport. So this extreme sport, we might be able to revive it, which would really be kind of fun. I don't know if I've got the guts or the ambition to do it all, but to hand it off and give some creative ideas might be fun. So watch for that. The making of Soccer Slam may be out soon.
So what I'm picturing, because I haven't seen any of these games yet, this is the first time I'm hearing it, is almost a live pinball machine of the players, the balls, just everything in chaos, throwing in multiple balls, the players trying to follow while other guys are trying to tackle them. Just
lots of scoring.
Really lots of scoring. Definitely not traditional soccer where it's a 3-point game. Probably how high of a score did they get on
I think one of them was 56 to 54. And you know what's amazing is at the end of the games, the people that you didn't think was going to win usually wins. Doesn't that sound like WWE a little bit, where the guy's down till the very end, and then he jumps up and knocks the daylights out of the other guy?
That's awesome. That sounds so perfectly American soccer. Just
that's the point that Pablo said from The Athletic. He said, everybody's trying to make soccer interesting in the U.S., but we put them in real tight bike shorts and crop tops up high. So some guys had bellies hanging out, others could show their 6-packs, the ones that were pro players. And then the girls that threw the balls in obviously looked like the ring girls in boxing. So we tried to combine the basketball, high scoring of basketball, the hard hitting of hockey, and then the skills. You see a lot of really good plays of soccer. So We'll see where it goes. I don't know. It could probably go in the trash with everything else, but it was really fun and something creative. In life, you're always trying to look for that next fun deal to do. And I've had 4 completely distinct careers doing cable television, our own companies, the zoo, and then ultimately running the lottery. That makes life really fun. And that's why I tell everybody, go after your dreams a little bit, and you've got to enjoy your day to day. We say happiness happens on the way to success. If you keep saying, well, as soon as I make this, I'm going to be happy. Nah, you're probably not. You got to look for ways it's kind of crazy and fun. And as you know, stand up or anything live for me, television live, these things live are so exciting. And there's adrenaline. You just it's so fun to do.
No, that's what I always try to tell people is happiness is in the moments. It's not in the years. You just have to find those little tiny tidbits. That was a good day. That was a good 5 minutes. Those little tiny bits, they build up to something magical in the grind that we all are in. Like it's grinding and then you get a little bit and then grinding and then you get a little bit.
I do a lot of public speaking and I learn from so many others. That's what makes it fun. Talking to you today, I'll learn 2 or 3 new things. And I heard a company called Life is Good. They'd make t-shirts, a little stick man. You may have seen it. And when they started, I heard one of their speeches and they said that when they started, they would have a meeting and everybody would come in and they all seemed grumpy and they would say, yeah, I have to go to a meeting. They'd hear them over say that to a friend. Yeah, I have to go to this meeting. I have to go to that meeting. So they called everybody and said, we're done right now with saying I have to. We're going to change the word have to get. And they were amazed at how positive everybody became. So I didn't have to come sit here. I could have said I have to go do this podcast. I got to come, and that makes it fun because I'm learning. I get to do new things. I get to meet new people. So if you change have to get and you get your culture saying that, you'll be amazed at how much more positive things are.
No, I'm totally in agreement with you. Last Saturday, I work at a restaurant during the day. Last Saturday, one of the other managers called off. So I just announced to everyone on my staff, hey, I'm working a bonus shift. Bonus shift. And I made that my motto the whole night. It brought everybody's energy up. I'm in hour 13. I feel great. They all know that they have to feel great because they're with me. They're part of my team. And it made it such a better night than just begrudgingly, like, I guess I got to stay, I'm not even supposed to be here right now. It doesn't help anything. It just hurts.
Absolutely.
It hurts everyone around you.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
But no, the way I think my favorite article I've ever read on happiness and contentness is when you're reaching for goals, it's like a slow trend upwards of feeling more and more content until you're about to reach the goal. Then you hit your highest level of happiness and then it drops down as you hit it. And the more things you have going, the more long-term goals you have going, the higher your overall level of contentness is. So it's all about trying to learn new things, growing your skills, and having them overlap, just like video games try to do, where you're about to level up, then you're about to get a new sword. Like they're playing off the dopamine systems in our own brain that were designed to make us better and better people. And I just always try to use that as inspiration to go about my life and try to learn new things and grow and just remember that those things, you feel it and then you feel it and then you have to have other things right behind them that you're also trying to advance with. And I think you're
absolutely perfect. I think that
your life story.
The growing up is another good example. Is most people when Christmas comes around remembers their Christmas at 6. That's kind of the height. Your goal is I got all these presents I was not expecting. I didn't understand. I don't have to worry about what they cost. And at 6, you have the greatest Christmas in your life. And from there on down the road, everybody tries to live themselves to that. I met with or worked with Damon John from the Shark Tank a few weeks ago. He taught me something in my old age that I think is a really good idea. He has a list that he goes to bed with at night, looks at it, may change it, of 6 things. In the morning, he wakes up and he reevaluates those 6 things he's going to do that day. But none of them are for anybody else. 6 things he wants to do for himself. Most people, all our lives, are working to please somebody else, do something else. And he because he just, everybody's picking at him. I've got this $1 million idea. I've got this $1 million idea. Make sure that when he goes to bed at night, he's happy because he's done 1 or 2 things that he enjoyed. And I thought, that's pretty cool when you think about it.
Yeah. And if you can do a little bit every day, like it accumulates quickly. Like, I know every night I stretch before bed, Now, whenever I go next to a dancer, I'll drop into the splits, and uh, the girl dancers always hate it when I drop into the center splits. They just
Yeah.
go wild because they've spent 10 years of their life in dance wanting to do those things in 10 minutes a day. That's all it really takes to do anything in this life is 10 minutes a day if you can commit.
How fun. Yeah,
That's how.
absolutely.
But you're like, that's why I love your story. Starting off with in a town of just 50 people. And as I look out my window, I can see 50 people's worth of homes, like spread out. You came up
Yep.
as a Democrat in probably a very conservative town, like raised by your parents, and you just expanded the world, traveled the world, and never stopped at one career, never like stopped growing. When you hit your potential at one thing, you just found another thing to just start going towards your potential in that.
Well, you
And it's
realize real fast that when I hit 40 and I made the goals I was going to make when I was 62, my dad said, work hard for someone at 62, get your Social Security, and you'll be happy. When I hit 40, we got cashed out and I had everything I wanted financially. I'd done all the traveling I ever thought I'd ever do. And I realized happiness doesn't happen, at 62. It happens on the way to success, as you're saying. So it's really fun to look for other goals and other ways to be able to take that next step. No doubt about it.
do you have any goals coming up? Do you have anything you're looking at right now to fail at a few times before you succeed?
Yeah, I've got two. We'll see as the finale. I'm doing public speaking now, so I travel the world, and public speaking in retirement is great because they pay you. You go in and do an hour, and then I stay for a day or two and travel around. It's kind of like, I guess, stand-up comedians and in that aspect of it. It's great money. It's good times. I'm doing that around the world, and it's really pretty cool. So that's one. But what's going to bring that to a peak if everything happens and I don't have a heart attack is I've got two documentaries. You heard about the Soccer Slam documentary we talked about a little bit ago. If that thing takes off, it'll be a fun story to talk about creativity and trying something that you never thought you could do. The other one is something that I'm as crazy and fun as I've had, ADHD, whatever I am, and bouncing around doing whatever, was as a lottery director, we helped crack the largest lottery fraud in U.S. history. And that's going to be made into a documentary also that should be on a big streaming network here in the next 12 to 16 months. It takes a long time to produce these things, but we'll see if that all comes together. But that one was a crazy one. It was trying to figure out how to crack this fraud. And you have to do that in a very serious way. You can't be all jolly and happy that someone frauded you. And
No.
to take him down and put him in prison for up to 25 years is pretty serious deal.
No, of course. I started reading your book on that. I wasn't able to finish it. I only found out I was going to get to talk to you a few days ago, but it was an exciting story. But I listened to one of your interviews, and you kept on mentioning 2 hot dogs helped crack the case. And a little bit of a spoiler. Can you tell me about how the first hot dog helped?
Well, when this person was an insider, it didn't work for us. He worked for a vendor that helped draw games for many states around the U.S. When he bought the ticket and he picked it up, he bought it himself, not realizing he was in a convenience store that recorded both audio and video. The store required that in our state, that we know who bought the ticket. And he worked for the company, which would be illegal if he bought this ticket. So he bought 2 hot dogs. He was only 300, 400 pounds. So yeah, a couple hot dogs seems somewhat logical. So ramp that up 2 or 3 years later, when we finally got the point that we identified who he was, and we put him on the stand and said, that has to be him. You can't really see his face, but the voice sounds just like him. And his best friend won a deal. They brought his brother up to testify. And his brother said, that can't be my brother. He don't eat hot dogs. This guy was from Texas. And the Associated Press picks this up. Everybody looks at the defendant, who's rather big, and thought, well, wait a minute. He's found guilty. But long story short, he put this article out, the Associated Press, and put that quote in. He didn't eat hot dogs. And this guy was a justice of the peace. His brother was testifying. Lived in Texas. Associated Press wrote the big article, put it out. It made it all the way back to Texas, and an FBI agent who had busted this guy, his brother, 10 years earlier, remembered him as a fraud. He thought he was money laundering. He had all these $100 bills, and he was trying to pass off $100 bills. And he had interviewed him under anesthesia, as I understand it, and And the guy said, no, I won the lottery in Colorado. So this guy remembered it from 10 years before, called us and said, hey, you better check his brother too. So what happens? How do the police find out when they're crooks? Go to Facebook, go to LinkedIn, you go to your cell phones, and you get all their contacts. And then we cross-reference that with all the winners of $600 and above, and ding, ding, we immediately found 5 or 6 big jackpots that these guys had won and busted the case. The ironic part was we set a ticket. Of course, it takes a ticket. That's how we followed it around to figure out who they were. 2 hot dogs. And the final thing was Bigfoot. This brother also, this same brother, was a Bigfoot hunter, and he was up in a tree stand hunting Bigfoot when he fell out, and that's what got him in the hospital to begin with. So you just can't make the stuff up. Some of the winners, their last names were Khan. My last name's Rich. I'm in the lottery business. I mean, there's just some crazy things that happened in this story. So it should make for an interesting documentary if it ever gets put together.
Oh yeah. Who would you want to play you, out of curiosity? Did you have an actor in mind?
Well, originally it was, I'm trying to think who's the guy with a big mustache, Wilford Brimley, but he died. So I'd like to have somebody alive, I guess. I don't know. Everybody'd say, it used to be Brad Pitt, Robert Redford, that sort of thing. But today, probably Bradley Cooper. But I guess since I'm from Cooper, that was my hometown. That might be good. I don't know if whatever it is, I just hope it's accurate.
Bradley Cooper would be wonderful for that role.
Maybe he and I could sing a duet together.
Because you got the call when you were in Belize, if I remember in the book correctly.
That's correct. So when I first got the call, what happened was the guy that bought the ticket, he gave it to his friend in Houston, gave it to his lawyer, saying, I don't know whether I can get this cash. Can you help me cash it? Gave it to a lawyer in New York. Didn't say who the original purchaser was. Then they gave it to a lawyer in Canada. And it was this guy that really tripped him up, because the guy in Canada, who was also a lawyer, retired lawyer, called to us and talked to the frontline person and said, hey, I've got a ticket. And they gave us a number that no one else had given us. So we knew it was probably the ticket. And he said, I'm just going to send you the ticket. You send me the money. Well, if you see something doesn't feel right, say something. And that frontline person, trained well, contacted our public relations area and our security folks and called and talked to him. And this guy says, yeah, he said, she said, what were you wearing? The PR person said, what were you wearing? And he said, well, I was wearing a plaid coat and pants. And we knew immediately he was then lying, because we had the video. Yeah. He was wearing all black, a black hoodie, and he was at least 300-400 pounds. And this guy was 78 and claimed he was $150, $175 for weight. So we knew he was lying. And then he called back a couple weeks later and said, hey, I told a little fib. And I'm on a ship. They call me. I'm thinking, geez, this is costing our state $9 a minute to tell me the story. But okay, go ahead. So we decided, don't pay it. Let's let it go to court, because if the court decides, if we give them the money, we'll never see it. Let's let a court decide, and then we're kind of off the hook on that. So he never did get the money, and we got the money back and gave it back out to our customers.
No, I think Bradley Cooper is the right choice. I can picture him on the cruise ship, getting these calls, complaining about how much it's costing the lotto, and just going from there. It's great. You can have him in a bathing suit. Oh, this sells already. This is great.
Yeah, I don't think you'd want to see me in a bathing suit. That'd be fun. But that's the story, and obviously the book's out there. We'll see where it all lands. But as much as I enjoy marketing and promotions, this one was a pretty serious deal. You're putting 3 people away in prison, and you're thinking, I don't know if I like this. And originally we didn't know, because one of the winners was a Las Vegas corporation called Question of Luck, and we thought, well, wait a minute. Well, now we're in Las Vegas. This could be organized crime. And if it's organized crime, I'm going to end up with a horse in my bed. It gets pretty serious pretty fast. Or even putting people in prison, you wonder, it's just what could happen, what has happened. But it all worked out. And we got something very few people get. If you're ever involved in a big theft or a robbery or a murder, usually it's appealed to the high heavens. But our group, our Rob Sand, our PR person, Mary Neubauer, the entire group, all of our security folks, and the DCI of our state had so much evidence. All 3 confessed, and all 3 went to prison. And usually you don't get that. That's called closure. Usually you're always doubting, geez, am I really doing that? We call it the $80 billion gamble, because if we mess this up, and we were in a lot of press nationally and internationally, if people don't want to buy lottery tickets because they think everything is rigged, we're costing
Yeah.
for a lot of good states a lot of money of up to 80 billion. That's with a B dollars. That's more money than all the money spent on sports tickets, music tickets, and movie tickets combined. That's how many people are buying lottery tickets in America.
No, and I know a lot of it currently goes to schools and things like that. So it would be a huge funding cut to so many things. Not to say that the lotto is the greatest thing in the world. Of course, it's not. I worked at a gas station for a couple of years, and
That's right.
I watched people do scratch offs a lot more than they should while complaining about things that was just breaking my heart. I remember one lady coming in talking about how she wasn't sure how she was going to feed her kid, get money for school lunch, and then she just bought $30 worth of scratch offs, hoping for that win. But at the same time, like every once in a while, like probably 3, 4 times a year, I'll buy a Mega Millions just for that fantasy I have for 2 days
That's right.
of what if I win?
What if? Yeah,
This
it's
could
fun
be
to
it.
dream with your pop can return or small change, but definitely don't bet the bank. And we
No.
we were always play with your head, not above your head was what we try to say. But I still believe in that the lotteries run by states in America. In other countries run by a private company, and I think run by states. You know where your governor, your representative is, or the lottery director's office is. Which is good. If you're buying and playing sports betting off Malta on the line or poker online, you don't know how fair and honest it is. And I think that's one of the advantages when they set the original lotteries up in America. And very few jackpots have ever been rigged in America. I can think of 2 big ones over the last 50 years, but that's with hundreds of millions, if not billions, of draws that have occurred in the United States. Very few have really had any kind of a bad mark on it.
And I didn't know that before starting to read your book, but I always did wonder, like, it does seem random, but like, how can I buy 5 numbers once a year and not one of the numbers on the ticket matches anything? But it's fun. It is fun,
It
and
is.
it is like knowing that the money is going to a good place, and even if I lose, I'm not betting too much. I think it's good fun for everything.
When you're looking at the amount of money spent and the money that we give away and the lotteries give away, since I'm not working for them anymore, I get a play now and I'm not winning. So maybe that tells you something. But the amount of money that's there, the odds are, usually somewhat stacked against you, but there's always that chance. That is something, to dream with, but definitely I'd never encourage anyone to spend, their whole bank savings on it.
No, but a little bit lighter. So you're traveling around to do public speaking. You're going to different towns. Are there parts of? Is it just in the nation, or are you traveling abroad?
The day before COVID hit, I was in Germany. I spent a week in Germany, gave an hour speech to a really, really good group, had a great response, and then just pounced around, jumped on a train. I didn't speak the language, but boy, was it fun. And so I've been to Germany, um, to Sweden and Norway to speak, and then all around the United States. So it's a fun venture. And then if I want to take a month off, I take a month off. So that's what retirement's
You
supposed to
ever?
be all about.
Yeah, you ever come to my neck of woods? I'm over in Detroit right now. You
I've
ever
been
been
in
to the
Michigan,
city?
but I don't think I've done a speech in Detroit. So if you're listening, you know someone, call. We'll both come out, right? You do the pre
Yeah,
warm up,
yeah.
and I'll do right after, or
Oh,
I'll do
I
the warm up, and you do
bel
the main one.
believe me, we'd have a blast. Like, I'd love to show you around the city. Like, for me, Detroit has a special place in my heart. Growing up in this area, like you saw it in the 90s when it was the most dangerous city in the world, or in America, the most murder capital, and then to watch what has happened in the last 30 years. Because we would go down to one area, to one restaurant in Detroit, and then you'd leave right away. And now with industries coming back, starting in with the Super Bowl in 2006, to Quicken moving down in 2011, just all these buildings that were built right before the Great Depression, because Detroit was the richest city in the world. They were built, and then the Great Depression started in Detroit, went to the rest of America. These buildings just, they're so opulent, yet they immediately went into decay, and now they're all being restored. And it's absolutely beautiful in all these different neighborhoods to see these buildings that were built but never really used. And now they're being utilized for the first time. It's really, it's just amazing in the city right now.
Isn't that fun? And it's fun, as we talk throughout this, success is fun, and it will come and go. There's no doubt about it. But enjoying every day, as you mentioned, is still the secret to life, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure. Is there anything else you wanna talk about before we wrap this up?
Well, I think we did a great job of highlighting the fun times in life and all the things that have happening. I think, as we said, it's fun now. I've got grandkids and kids, so that's another pleasure that some people have, some people don't. But it's a lot of fun and well worth it when it's all said and done. But no, this has been fun. I really appreciate your time today.
I appreciate your time, and it was a pleasure to talk to you. Like, I've really enjoyed reading your books, and I did find them motivating in a lot of ways. And I look forward to your documentaries coming out. I'm going to be following. Like you, you have a fan in me from this
I
point
appreciate
forward,
that.
if that means anything. But it was a pleasure, and I appreciate your graciousness and your time.
Absolutely. Oh, you forgot, you gave a disclaimer there at the beginning. I get to give the last one. Void were prohibited, member FDIC.
That's wonderful. Well, is there any social media you want to plug before we go?
I'm at LinkedIn, and then my website is terryspeaks.com. Pretty easy to remember, terryspeaks.com. And that has the information on the books and the speeches and all that sort of thing. But I'm not so much in plugging as I am to say hi to good friends and to tell stories that might help someone else.
That's wonderful. Well, it's been a pleasure, and you can find them at Terry Speaks. And this has been Fox D, and I'm JB in the D. Thank you.